let's call a meeting to order. Has been our, I guess, tradition since COVID. We go through a procedure at the beginning, letting everybody know how we're going to go under the new rules. This meeting will be held both in person and remote, so we're going to walk through that at the beginning, and then we're all on the same page, and then we can proceed with the meeting. So, good evening. This is the regularly scheduled January 13th meeting of the Geneva Planning and Zoning Commission. I am Scott Stocking, the chairman of the commission. Tonight, for the benefit of those in the audience, I'm joined by City Planner Chayton True and our public transcriber. All commission members are present except Adam. He is not in the meeting tonight, and we will have Evans joining us remotely shortly, hopefully. Virtual attendees may watch or participate in the live stream meeting by accessing the link provided in the meeting agenda found on the city's website at www.geneva.il.us. For more information about meeting procedures or providing public comment, please see notice regarding public meeting and public comment rule modification due to COVID-19, a link which is provided on the agenda for the meeting this evening. This evening, the commission will host two public hearings regarding agenda items 5A and B, followed by a site plan review for agenda item 6A. As chairman of tonight's meeting, I will guide the public, applicant, and commission through our public hearing process, which is outlined in the back of the meeting agenda. Please see this page for further details. The commission will open the public hearing for each applicant and will provide an opening statement and a brief overview of their requests. Commission members will have first opportunity to ask questions and make comments. This will be followed by public comment and testimony regarding the requests. Audience members will be called on virtually or in person and given an opportunity to comment. We ask that you state your name and address when it is your turn to speak. If your comment has already been made or your question has already been asked, it is not necessary to repeat it. Remind members from the public refraining from veering off topic and direct comments that are germane to the request being considered. Following the end of public testimony, the applicant will have an opportunity to comprehensively answer questions and respond to any comments made from members of the public. Additional questions or comments may be stated by the commission, but public comment will not be reopened. Each public hearing may then be closed, followed by the commission deliberation on separate requests. Any person speaking during the public hearing agree and understand that anything they say will be considered sworn testimony and affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Agenda items 5B and 6A pertain to a planned unit development expansion and site plan review, respectively, from Northwestern Medicine-Delnor Hospital. The proposed planned unit development extension requires a public hearing, but the site plan review does not. However, the applicant may present both items before the commission simultaneously, followed by separate consideration questions and comments on each agenda item. In order to help the quality of the broadcast, I remind all the commissioners to mute themselves, except when addressing the commission. Commissioners joining virtually need to state their name prior to speaking and prior to providing a roll call vote to better assist our record keepers. For example, Stocking, yea, nay, or abstain. Okay, so it's a little bit different, but those are the rules we'll be following this evening. Everybody understand how we're going to proceed? All right, very good. Celeste, please call the roll.
Evans,
Evans, aye.
Holloman,
Holloman here.
Metaskill is not here. Mead,
Mead here.
Slivka,
Slivka here.
Moran,
Moran here.
Chairman Stocking.
Stocking here.
You got a quorum.
All right, thank you. All right, so next up is approval of the agenda for this evening. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve. Mead.
Second, Slivka.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next item is approval of the minutes. I believe it's the December 9th, 2021 meeting. It says on the agenda the December 13th, but that's not the, or 15th, I believe. That's not the day we had the meeting. It's actually December 9th, 2021. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the minutes of the December 9th meeting. Slivka.
Second, Moran.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, very good. So we'll move on to our first public hearing item. Okay. Those who are speaking today, will you please rise and raise your right hand? I'm going to swear you in. Okay. Do you solemnly do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth in tonight's testimony? Thank you. Okay, so the next item we have is public hearing on 5A, 40 North Harrison Street. It's a variation, section 11-5E-4, lot area requirements to decrease the street yard setback from 20 feet to 0 feet in accordance with section 11-14-5 variations of the Geneva zoning ordinance. The location is 140 North Harrison. The PIN is 12-02-332-009, and the applicant is Jerry Wibbin, I believe. Do you have anything for the record, Jake?
Thank you, Chairman Stocking. So the contents of this file include an application for a variation filed by Gerald Wibbin dated October 27, 2021, including the following items: project narrative, response to variation standards, legal description, proposed porch design, plat of survey, list of property owners within 500 feet of the subject property, affidavit attesting to the accuracy of the list of property owners within 500 feet of the subject property. The contents of this file also include a copy of the letter to all property owners within 500 feet providing notice of the application being filed, a certificate of publication from the Daily Herald for the legal notice that was published on December 29, 2021 for tonight's public hearing, a copy of the public hearing notice mailed to all property owners within 500 feet, and a staff report from the Community Development Department to the Planning and Zoning Commission dated January 13, 2022.
All right, thank you very much. We will hear from the applicant.
Hello, I am Gerald Wibbin, and I live at 140 North Harrison Street in Geneva. We're requesting this variance setback. Our address, front entrance, or our Harrison Street is our front of our home, but the main entrance is on Jefferson Street, and has always been that way. I've actually grew up in the house and live there now with my wife. So all we're trying to do is just replace an existing patio or front porch main entrance area. So there'll be a landing and then the stairs going down. The existing one, we found out through this process that it's actually over. So we are willing to pull it back to where it needs to be. It's actually, I think, 1 inch. It's designed to be 1 inch, inside the property line. So we're just trying to make improvements to the home, and, it'll be the same size, same structure and stuff, nothing different, and to code. Questions?
So it's just a replacement of the existing structure?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? John?
Mr. Chairman, so thank you for your presentation.
Sure.
You're bringing the variance or the encroachment into the city's right-of-way back to approximately 1 inch inside of your property line.
That's correct, yeah.
And the deck I saw, which is probably wise, is a freestanding deck and stairs, so as not to move with the house, because
That's correct, yes.
It'll settle differently than the older house will. It's already
Yes,
settled.
yeah.
That's really all I had.
Yeah. So it currently is over the property line, the existing structure?
Currently, it is over the property line. Through this process, we had determined that was the case and didn't know it all this time. So we want to go to 0. We actually have it designed for 1 inch inward.
So you're alleviating that problem.
Exactly, yeah. So we can alleviate that. And if it was, currently it's 20 feet from the street, right? That would probably end up in our living room. Just doesn't apply.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, sir.
Great, thank you.
All right, anyone in the public wishing to speak on this matter here at City Hall? We'll start with City Hall first. those present at City Hall, any wishing to speak on this matter? Not seeing any, so we will go remote. If you wish to speak on this matter, please use your raise hand feature on your application and you'll be recognized to speak. Nope. Okay, so we don't have any public comment on this item.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the public, do we have comments among the commission? No.
I don't have any comments either.
Then I'd make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Celeste, please call the roll.
Evans, aye.
Sorry about that. Got to get you on the microphone. Okay, that is an aye for Evans. Holloman,
Holloman, aye.
Mead,
Mead, aye.
Slivka,
Slivka, aye.
Moran,
Moran, aye.
and Stocking.
Stocking, aye.
That passes.
Okay. Chait, their next step is council?
No, we have to make a
Oh, we
motion.
gotta,
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's right.
Any discussion?
Any discussion? I mean, they're alleviating the current encroachment, so that's a positive.
Right, and you need an ingress, you need two ingresses and egresses to a home. So they cannot not have this, in my opinion.
Correct, yes. Any other comments, questions? I mean,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve a variation from section 11-5E-4 R3 medium to high-density, single-family residential district lot and area requirements to decrease the required street yard setback along Jefferson Street from the required 20 feet to 0 feet for the replacement of an existing porch for the home located at 140 North Harrison Street, subject to the findings of fact contained in the staff report.
Second, Slivka.
moved and seconded. Celeste, please call the roll.
Evans,
Evans, aye.
Holloman,
Holloman, aye.
Mead,
Mead, aye.
Slivka,
Slivka, aye.
Moran,
Moran, aye.
and Stocking.
Stocking, aye.
Passes.
All right, now, Chait, what's their, going to council?
Yes, so this item will go to, got to turn on my mic first, I apologize. So the Planning and Zoning Commission just made a recommendation to City Council. That will be considered before the City Council right here in this room at 7 p.m. on January 24th, I believe. I'll get back with you on a date. But it could be in February or it might be the 24th of January. So we'll reach out to verify that with you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Okay, so our next item is 5B. It's Delnor-Community Hospital PUD expansion. An amendment to the Fisher Farms Plan Unit Development to remove a parcel 12-05-400-021 and to amend the Delnor Community Hospital Plan Unit Development to include parcels 12-05-400-021 and 12-05-400-007 in accordance with the ordinance 2003-33 Delnor Community Plan Unit Development and Section 11-14A Site Plan Review of the City of Geneva zoning ordinance. Location is 300 South Randall Road, and the applicant is Northwestern Memorial Healthcare. Jayden, do you have records?
Yes, sir. So the contents of this file include an application for a planned unit development amendment filed by Northwestern Memorial Healthcare dated July 19th, 2021, including the following items: project narrative, PUD plan, 18th restatement of ordinance 2003-33, the Delnor-Community Plan Unit Development, plat of survey, legal description, and proof of ownership for parcel 12-05-400-021, plat of survey, legal description, and proof of ownership for parcel 12-05-400-007, legal description and proof of ownership for the Delnor-Community Hospital, PUD, Kane County Road Impact Fee application, list of property owners within 500 feet of the subject property, affidavit attesting to the accuracy of the list of property owners within 500 feet of the subject property. The contents of this file also include a copy of the letter to all property owners within 500 feet providing notice of the application being filed, a certificate of publication from the Daily Herald for the legal notice that was published on December 29th, 2021 for tonight's public hearing, a copy of the public hearing notice mailed to all property owners within 500 feet, and a staff report from the Community Development Department to the Planning and Zoning Commission dated January 13th, 2022.
All right, thank you very much. We'll hear from the applicant at this time.
Click it, you can click that off.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. My name is Christian Banks. I am a Northwestern Memorial Healthcare employee at Delnor-Community Hospital. And we're here tonight to present to the commission our application for the planned unit development of the 2 parcels, as well as a site plan review for the Delnor Cancer Center expansion. Most of the presentation is geared toward the expansion, the project that we'll be doing. We wanted to present to the commission what our plans are for the expansion. Unfortunately, this area of care has required us to expand on the cancer center that was built back in 2013. So I brought our design team with us this evening. The architect is Gresham Smith, Goran Vakoviak, and our civil engineer is V3, Steve Kranenborg. I'm going to just run through what we'd like to discuss with you this evening, and then I'll turn it over to the architect. But basically, we just would like to talk about the expansion and the intended use and the location of the expansion. We can't go north, we can only go south, and as you're probably aware, the south of us is a detention basin. So we'll touch on a little bit of that as far as the construction goes. We'll talk about the general building information, continuity with other buildings on campus and the existing building itself. We'll go through an architectural review. We'd like to share some of our elevations and renderings of the expansion with the commission, and also run through a little bit of the proposed floor plan for the clinics that will be expanding and renovating in the Delnor Cancer Center. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Goran so he can walk us through the plans and the expansion.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, my name is Goran Vakoviak. I am a project architect for this lovely project I'm with Gresham Smith. What you're looking at on the screen is essentially the new site plan of our project. There is a faint line there where you can kind of see the expansion to the south and how that sort of jets out into the pond. Essentially very similar, if not identical, to what's happening currently there right now. So most of the work that you're looking at here is happening to the south. We're not necessarily touching anything north, Randall Road running along the bottom. So the site plan basically stays the same. Obviously, there's some improvements that are happening along the top and along the edge of that pond, which we would try to make that look very similar to what's currently there now. At the top, some bullet points of what the expansion will bring. We're touching infusion, we're touching oncology, pharmacy, and there's some renovation of the admin and offices. Just again, expanding all these things since we're expanding the cancer center. You're actually looking at the photo of the existing cancer center at the top left, and then sort of our addition on the bottom. Some stats on truly what's being expanded. There is about 15,500 square feet of addition to the current cancer center. And that would mean for parking wise, we are at a total around 47, a little bit over 47,352. The current site plan has 146 parking spots currently there. So with the addition, we are still under that code required amount. So we are required a 143, but we're at 146. So that's I guess why we're not doing anything to the parking on that side. I'd certainly just like to jump in on what this truly would look like and what the aesthetic is as it comes out and jets out into the pond. Overall, I guess I'll start with the overall idea here was the expansion when it's done would look very, very much like the current cancer center. So when you don't necessarily see the addition as an addition. You see that once it's complete, you see that as a whole new building. You can't tell, or the goal is not to be able to tell where the new building starts and where the old building ends. And then at the end of the day, it truly does look very similar to the current cancer center that's there now. Essentially a view from the pond. You're looking at that edge of the pond and how it's again very much what's there now. There are some obviously improvements. The glass there you're looking at is a staff break room that they'll get some views onto the pond as well as on the other side of that will be patients. Very similar to what's there currently. Finishes, we're basically taking what's on the current building and extending them into the new. So the metal panel, the stone panel, the curtain wall, and the glass is match identical to what's there now, even obviously the stone that's wrapping the bottom there. Another view from Randall Road, or sort of that path that winds around the cancer center. Same idea again. The what we call it here, the Four Seasons, the double height space there. It's just essentially moved from where it is now to a new location, accommodating more oncology exam rooms and more infusion rooms. Obviously, with that expansion, we have to displace a little bit of the pond, and I can certainly get into how we plan to do that, but I'll let Steve talk a little bit about what that truly means with the water line and the amount of water that we're displacing.
So, like Goran said,
Sir, could you please identify yourself?
oh yeah, sorry. My name is Stephen Cranenborg. I'm a project manager with V3 Companies, and we're the civil engineer for this development.
All right, thank you.
So continue on with what Goran said, is that this diagram highlights about how we're going to accomplish replacing that volume that's going to be lost by building the expansion out into the pond. So the lighter blue area is the footprint of the existing basin as it exists today. The red highlights the scope of the expansion, so you can see it's just pushing into the north end of the detention pond. And so to make up that volume that we're losing, we're going to be expanding the open water area of the pond, which is that area that's in the dark blue, but we're also going to be cutting back the side slopes around the majority of the basin, which is the area highlighted in green. So the open water area of the basin isn't expanding, but we are going to be lowering some of the elevations around and creating kind of a native landscaped shelf around the basin, and then we'll be replanting everything with new native vegetation to enhance the look and vegetation of that existing basin. And then now I'll turn it back over to Goran. He'll touch on exactly how we're going to construct the expansion.
Sorry, the other way. So what you're seeing here is sort of a diagram of how our construction partners are going to go ahead and accomplish this task of building into the pond, which, as exciting the project is, I think how we get there is also exciting in this case. The intent is to lower or drain some of the pond to a level where it exposes the area of where the new addition will go. There will be some sheet pilings driven in to sort of keep that area dry. They'll go ahead and sort of excavate any of the bad soil, which we don't necessarily intend to be too much, and then essentially put a gravel or something compact on top of there so they can actually build which is stage 3 here, build the foundations for the building, as well as as well as all of the landscaping walls there. After that is done, they can obviously start actually building the addition while we would cut at the end of the day, or at the end of the project, cut the top of the sheet pilings off so it still retains the earth, because the level between the two obviously is probably around 12 feet. But cut the sheet pilings and then let the water come in to about 5 feet around that first retaining wall, as you saw in those renderings. Going into what will happen on the inside of the cancer center, and you probably can't see my mouse here, but somewhere in the middle there where the light blue and dark blue sort of at the bottom, or light purple and dark purple is where the existing cancer center ends, and then anything in full color to the left here or south is new. There is also obviously an extensive amount of renovation just to sort of bring everything up to par and make it look like a unified one cancer center after it is done. Diving into the oncology, which is the yellow at the north end here, or west of the plan. At the end of the day, there is an additional 19 exam rooms and 1 procedure room, with a total of 32 at the end of the day, and 2 procedure rooms. There's also a nice large staff break room that enjoys the views out to the pond, with also a terrace space on the south end. There is some additional team rooms and offices that are also sort of built around the oncology clinic in this here. And then on the other side of that double height, we call it Skylit Boulevard, is the infusion clinic. Again, we're almost doubling the amount of rooms that they have there around the perimeter. Still get their views to the outside, while the middle, or a nurse station or support area, is also getting some upgrades. Essentially ample space for every one of the nursing staff that's there currently. Looking at the waiting area and conference rooms, this is essentially a revamp of the registration. They're getting 2 additional registration spots, totaling 8, and then also checkout is getting 3 additional checkouts, just to accommodate the traffic and the amount of patients that are essentially now going to be served here. To the left there is the conference room, which they currently already had. It's just relocated to a new location. And last but not least, the pharmacy, which is staying in the same spot. It's just, again, basically doubling in size, because to accommodate double the amount of rooms, we needed essentially 2 new, or an additional hood room equaling 2, and then some support space, which brought the pharmacy total to about 1,400 square feet. And that brings Chris back.
Oh, thanks, Corey.
Thank you very much.
No, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank you for letting us present on the project. Like I said, it's unfortunate that we have to expand this building, but we are very excited about the challenge working with your team and providing the best care for patients in our community. With that, thank you, and I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Chairman, if I may
Yes.
ask the applicant
Yeah.
a question. Do you have any other comments or anything to present regarding the expansion of the actual PUD for the hospital, like adding the 2 parcels? Is there any?
So with the application right now, it's just to add those two parcels as part of the planned unit development. We do not have any plans at this time for those parcels. It's kind of, there'll be some time before that's determined. And at that point in time, we would go in with another application for zoning and approval for a site plan review.
And Chairman, if I may
Sure.
address the commission real quick. So, the applicant just made a presentation on both the PUD expansion and the Cancer Center expansion, but right now we are still in the public hearing for the actual PUD expansion, which is to include those two new parcels. So for right now, we'll try to concentrate our questions or comments on the actual expansion of the PUD. And then we may close the public hearing and deliberation may continue and a vote. And then we can move on to the next agenda item, which is 6A, which is discussion of the actual Cancer Center expansion.
Okay.
That's kind of how we'll move forward.
Yep.
Just so it's easy on our public hearing transcriber too,
Right.
so she's not taking
They're
notes
bundled
on-
together, but
on
we're
the Cancer
taking them as
Center.
separate items,
So-
yeah. So are those newly acquired parcels? Is that why they're being added to the PUD? I'm not exactly certain.
I believe that they were that previously acquired. I believe that this is kind of, when we discussed the Cancer Center expansion and the requirements for the site plan review, we added it in as one application with those parcels coming
Okay,
as part of it.
okay. John, do you have anything?
Just, so confirming, you've purchased them, you own them, you're just bringing both the parcels into the PUD, so they're subject to the PUD criteria. You're land banking them until something's done, is identified to be constructed, and you'll come back for the appropriate approvals at that time.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Tim?
I had a question. The parcel to the north, 1205, 400, 021. So to the south of that, if I'm looking at this correctly, is a residential development, is that correct?
I believe so.
And are the people who live there given notice of this public hearing?
Yes.
And have we gotten any comments or feedback from these people?
We did not receive any public comments written for either public hearing this evening, including this one.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Michael?
I just had a question, I think really for Chayton. So their statement is that once the parcels are combined, they can be developed either within the underlying zoning district or the PUD. Is that?
That's correct. Yeah, so Delnor has a PUD that any development would need to abide by, or any development could also abide by the zoning district of those parcels, which I believe one is office research, OR office research, and the other is commercial right now.
So would the PUD always govern then? Or,
Yes,
okay, all right, thanks.
yes.
Yes, Rebecca?
Just so I'm clear, to piggyback, once it comes into the Delnor PUD, the zoning automatically changes to
The zoning will not change.
north?
The PUD will govern development standards, but like uses
Okay.
may also take place that are within that zoning, the zoning of that parcel. So like I said, the PIN 1205 400 021 is commercial, so they could have commercial uses in there, but they could also have uses that are permitted within the Delnor PUD.
Oh, I see. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Tim?
Follow-up question. Are these two parcels currently on the tax rolls, and having been acquired by Northwestern, will they be exempt?
I'm not real sure. I can't answer that question, sir, but I could take it back as a follow-up to see if I can get an answer.
Thank you.
Any other questions at this time?
I have one.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I can't see you on screen, so you have to
No,
definitely
I'm-
speak up.
Okay, now I had a couple of questions, but they are not
they're just kind of long-range thoughts. As you add these two parcels, which will ultimately be developed in some way, and then looking also at buildings E and F, which are very low-intensity uses of that particular area, and I assume could be redeveloped at some point. How will circulation change? Is it that entrance, the main entrance on the south side is not signaled? It's not that easy to make a left turn out of there now at certain hours of the day. Just kind of wondering if there were any thoughts about how this all comes together ultimately with all of this additional space to develop.
Yeah, so I think with respect to that, when those parcels are developed and we determine what they would be developed for the use under the PUD, a traffic study would most likely be done in order to understand that traffic flow better and how that impacts the south entrance to the campus.
Yeah, I think it was something like this. I just wondered if there was something already on the books that would be a change in the way that was handled. No, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tim. Any other commission comments at this time? All right, thank you, sir. We're going to open it up to public hearing. So is there anyone here currently? We do have somebody here in City Hall who wants to speak. Please come forward.
Move this, sorry.
Keep a sharp eye on that iPad. My name is John Dashner, and I'm at 733 Lexington Drive. Thanks very much for having me. I am curious, just for amplification, the pond that you're changing, is that for flood control? Is it just aesthetics? What is that used for? And if it's flood, how is that impacting? Have you done your studies on that so that we can fully understand what's happening with that site as it becomes smaller? I realize that he's pushing it out in one area and carving it down in another area, but we didn't see any numbers for the volume of water, or if that's a flood or whatever. And then the aesthetics of the plan, I am just curious. It's a metal panel. You said you're not going to be able to tell any difference, but that metal panel has been up there for a number of years. Are you going to be able to see the change in colors? Is that important, or maybe that's not important? But I thought I would ask. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, anyone else here at City Hall wishes? I think everyone else is applicants, so I asked questions answered. Anyone on remotely who wishes to speak on this matter? No? Nobody on?
Nope.
Okay. Since there's nobody on, there's nobody prepared to speak, so, sir, would you like to comment on the two questions the gentleman had? Yeah.
I'll let V3 comment.
You might as well start there. I was going to ask about the pond as well, so
Yeah.
certainly.
So basically, to answer his question, so the pond, we're replacing any volume that's being lost as part of the intrusion of the building expansion into the pond. So we are replacing the volume at a 1-to-1 ratio. And also to answer his question, yeah, that the pond is designed to provide some level of stormwater detention or flood control for the essentially the eastern 2/3 of the campus. And then there's another large pond out on the west side. But yeah, we're replacing the volume at a 1-to-1 ratio, and then we're also adding additional volume for the added impervious surface by the building in accordance with current Kane County stormwater ordinance.
Okay. And then there was a finishing question on the outside. That's the architect, I guess.
The aesthetics, absolutely. We do want them to look seamless. At the end of the day, it is the same metal panel. The other one was installed about 10 years ago. So, at the end of the day, washing and essentially just continuing from one to the other is the goal and the idea. Most of that transition happens sort of above the roof and in the back, so it's not necessarily right in your face. And some of the new stuff is obviously front facing. So you'd have to truly know where that break starts and goes to know where it would be. But at the end of the day, the goal is one unified building. I hope that answered the question.
All right, thank you, sir.
close the public hearing.
Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Celeste, please call the roll.
Okay, Evans,
Evans, aye.
Hellerman,
Holloman, aye.
Mead,
Mead, aye.
Slivka,
Slivka, aye.
Moran,
Moran, aye.
and Stocking.
Stocking eye.
Okay. Passes.
Chayton, point of order. There's two motions to be made. One is removing a parcel from the Fisher Farms and adding it to, the other one is adding that parcel with another parcel. They're not mutually exclusive, so they're going to be two separate motions, but one can't really happen without the other, correct?
Correct.
Okay. As long as we recognize that, so. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for an amendment to the Fisher Farms Planned Unit Development to remove parcel 12-05-400-021, subject to the findings of fact contained in the staff report.
Second, Slivka.
Wait a second, hang on a second.
Can you clarify which PUD that is? I don't think you mentioned.
I said the Fisher Farms
You
Planned
did?
Unit.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, I think he added it.
I read it verbatim, so.
So we've got the right one.
Yes.
Okay,
Second.
thank you, Mike. Moved and seconded on that first motion. Celeste, please call the roll.
Okay. This is Fisher Farm. Evans,
Evans, aye.
Holloman,
Holloman, aye.
Mead,
Mead, aye.
Slivka,
Slivka, aye.
Moran,
Moran, aye.
and Stocking.
Stocking eye.
That passes.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for an amendment to the Delnor-Community Hospital Planned Unit Development to include parcels 12-05-400-021 and 12-05-400-007, subject to the findings of fact contained in the staff report.
Second, Slivka.
Moved and seconded. Second motion. Celeste?
Two parcels. Okay, Evans,
Evans, aye.
Holloman,
Holloman, aye.
Mead,
Mead, aye.
Slivka,
Slivka, aye.
Moran,
Moran, aye.
Stocking.
Stocking eye.
That passes.
Thank you. The site plan, I think, is 6A. So 6A is, I'll just read it out so that we've got it in the record. So it's the site plan review for Northwestern Medicine-Delnor Hospital Cancer Center expansion, a proposed 15,500 square foot expansion of the existing 35,034 square foot cancer center. Location is at 300 South Randall Road, and the applicant is Northwestern Memorial Healthcare. And an applicant provided that presentation as part of the PUD application, so.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a couple questions on the pond. Seems to be the
Yes.
topic of the day, so.
The interesting
Put the
pond,
civil
it's-
engineer to work. So you're replacing on a one-to-one basis the volume, plus adding any additional volume for the impervious area of the new building.
Correct.
Plus you by changing the grade at the edges of the pond, you're allowing for some flood control for the campus, or is that not, or is that all factored into the one-to-one?
That's all factored in. I mean, the pond was designed to provide flood control in accordance with the ordinance at that time when the campus was originally built out. And then since that time, the campus has been grandfathered into that
Okay.
version of the ordinance. And now with this project this project is designed to meet the requirements of the current
Okay.
Kane County ordinance.
So we will see an expansion, an extension of the water surface area on the other three sides?
Correct.
Okay. And then is there a need to dredge the pond deeper?
There is not. This pond is actually considerably deeper than your typical pond, so that pond, I believe, exceeds 20 feet of depth
Okay.
in certain areas, which when Goran got into kind of the constructability, that the pond side slopes do
Okay.
drop off fairly rapidly.
Okay. Have there been any issues with the pond and its ability to control flood and retain the water to date?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And then lastly, will the swans return?
I guess is yes.
Okay,
They take good care of those swans.
they do. And they don't like it when you walk too close.
No.
If you're walking the.
No, they do not. So I just had I had a question with both the engineer and architect. So it's cost effective to move it into the pond and not in another location? I mean, I just kind of want to go through the rationale behind that, because it's obviously you're putting in a piling and retaining wall and all that. Could you just kind of speak to that, just so I kind of understand that process?
Absolutely. So
Not that I don't like what you've done with it, but just the rationale behind it.
The current, actually the building built in, or the cancer center expansion in 2012 did a very similar thing with the pond at
That's
that
right.
time.
Yeah, I remember that now.
So since there's obviously not enough parking and not enough, essentially the trade-off is keeping them in operation and serving patients while this construction's going.
That's a
One.
big factor.
Right, that's a big one. Certainly, almost that is the whole thing, because if you take that off, obviously then the cost skyrockets. And then also obviously not disturbing the site. There's no more site to allow for anything. If you take away parking, there's really no other way to gain it unless you go back into the pond. So,
Pretty tight, yeah.
Yeah, I think that this space was a big consideration also.
Sir, just go to the podium so that people can hear.
Absolutely. With the consideration of space, I would just wanted to speak to what Goran said was we need to keep that cancer center operational for the patients that we serve. So the idea was, and it's not going to be easy, but we're going to do all this work while they continue to do infusion and oncology treatment. So there's not really another spot to go. So that's part of the rationale as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right, I just wanted to have a little background on that, but I think it's definitely. Tim?
I'm not familiar with how a cancer center works. Is this mostly outpatient treatment, or do people stay overnight here?
I can speak to that. It is outpatient treatment. The building is not an inpatient occupancy. It's a business occupancy, I believe. So IDPH doesn't review the plans. We do not have patients that would stay overnight in the building. They're treated there, and they would go home.
And if I understood you correctly, it will remain open while the construction is going on?
That's correct.
And what's the time frame for the construction?
The timeframe is, it's a phased project, and the total duration of all phases, when you consider the expansion and then going in and doing the pharmacy renovation, the front desk registration, the conference center, and all that, is a 16-month schedule.
Okay, so into 2023.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Michael?
Just had one more question regarding the ponds. Obviously, I think it's probably the most, obvious thing here in terms of impact. But so in terms of achieving the storage, the water lines, the discharge, all remains the same as it did in the previous version?
That's correct. We're not modifying the high water, the normal level of the pond. The existing outlet control pipe is going to stay the same. The release rate from the pond itself is going to remain the same. So we're only essentially expanding horizontally. So we're not going to drop the water level or raise it even higher. So it'll pretty much function the way it does today. It'll just have slightly more volume.
Okay, thank you. And if I could, I think this is just a general comment, but, creative solution, and I've always liked that building, so I'm glad to hear that the expansion will, be done in a kind of a seamless, uniform way. But it seems like it meets everything else, regulations of the PUD, so again, I think it's a nice solution.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for a site plan approval for a 15,466 square foot addition to the existing 35,034 square foot cancer center on the campus of Northwestern Memorial Healthcare at 300 South Randall Road in Geneva, subject to the findings of fact contained in the staff report.
Moran, second.
Moved and seconded. Celeste?
Okay. Site plan. Evans,
Evans, aye.
Holloman,
Element I.
Mead,
Mead, aye.
Slivka,
Slivka, aye.
Moran,
Moran, aye.
and Stocking.
Stocking eye.
It passes.
All right. So, thank you, gentlemen. Chayton, what's the schedule for council?
So the next step will be to take both items to city council. That will take place on Monday, February 7th at 7 p.m. here in the city council chambers. If there's another meeting available between now and then, we'll let you know. But as of right now, that will be the next available city council meeting, February 7th.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so next item on our agenda is public comment. And again, because we're virtual, I'm opening it up for public comment both here. Yes, we have a public comment here already. I don't even have to do the virtual yet.
John Dashner again.
Yes.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, the second, thing that you passed,
Site plan.
Site
was
plan?
there public comment on that issue as well? It seemed like you had, your comments, but then there was no public comment. So maybe there wasn't a need, but I am curious, just in terms of the flood control and throwing this out there, and maybe you can address it later. If it's only working on current standards, we have 100-year, rains seemingly every month. Are we planning on looking at longer-term type of water retention in that pond,
Well,
I
that's
guys?
Chayton.
And maybe that's something that you guys already discussed or
Well, the
have
city's
thought about.
constantly looking at flood plain and flood, modifications to keep the system up to. Chayton, you want to comment at all on that?
Yeah, so our stormwater consultant is WBK, and they have reviewed the plans as well as Public Works to ensure that, the proposed pond expansion fits within the Kane County ordinance that applies to this specific project. So,
Excuse me, that's current standards, right? My question is more long-term, right? My question is, are they looking at it on a 200-year basis? This building is going to be there for a while, right?
Follow the county guidelines, right?
because to my knowledge, the Kane County Stormwater Management Ordinance does have those components in it, like.
But they didn't really address that, did they?
No, that's all part of the review process to
Oh.
ensure that it meets those standards. I mean, we wouldn't see it
Oh, okay.
typically unless it did meet those standards, or they'd be asking for a variance or something
Oh, I see.
related to, like if they wanted to modify something and not, but stormwater, usually we wouldn't even look at that because it's such a major deal that we don't want to vary from the standard. That's a pretty rock solid standard. So we typically don't do, again, and I also know this comes up often during planning commission meetings. The city's also out there constantly looking for wide stormwater improvements on the existing system, upgrades and things like that. So it's sort of a two-thing process. We both make the applicants meet the county standards, and then the city's also looking to do hotspot changes and deal with known flood problems. So they have an active program to do that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be difficult. It
Sure.
just seems as though the standard that they're looking at is current standards. My question is, future standards? And I guess that's the question, but thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I
that.
mean, again, I think the county looks at that periodically and they do updates and stuff, and I'm sure you could certainly take it up with them, but, obviously we see the weather effects now in terms of the 100-year storms being quite frequent.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, thank you.
So again, I'm opening up for other additional public comment for anybody. Yes, John?
Mr.
Do
Chair,
you wanna
just to
follow
address
up on that?
Mr. Dashner's questions, and I think it's not uncommon, and I know you're one of our regulars, but to see the staff report contain, when there's questions by the city staff or city engineering department or our outside consultants, to see a condition put on our approval or recommended condition that certain other things might be done prior to issuing permits or prior to a project going forward. And in this case, it wasn't, and so we have outside consultants and city staff looking at that, or city engineering. So that gives us some comfort that it meets the current standards. We don't get into which standards should apply, and hopefully the city, over time, reviews its standards to see if things need to change based on climate change and everything else. So, and the other point you brought up was there was no public comment. Correct me if I'm wrong, but for a site plan review, that's not a public hearing. So that's why it was bifurcated and put in item 6, so that we review it, we ask questions, and then we recommend it to the city council, one way or the other, so.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Yep. So, again, any additional public comment on the people virtually, please let us know. Use the raise hand function. Okay, there are none, so we're done with that. So next item would be other business. So upcoming planning commission items.
Yeah, we'll give a little recap on what we have going on in community development. The Fox Valley Commerce Center, which is a large industrial proposal at the northwest corner of Couch Road and Geneva Drive.
Okay, that one.
They're still working through some items with city staff at this time, so no real change in that portion. Valley Animal Hospital along East State Street. They are revising their PUD to add a parking lot to the southern portion of that property, just to expand parking. So they're also working with city staff right now, addressing some comments, making sure that that's prepared and perfected to come before the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council. Let's see, what else do we have? No change on the Verizon Tower at Oscar Swan. First round review comments were sent to the applicant. That's the latest we have on that. And then there will also be a public hearing for the vacation of Colony Drive on Tuesday. I believe that's January 18th. Let me check. Yes, that's Tuesday, January 18th at 7 p.m. in the City Council chambers to consider the vacation of Colony Drive, which is just a short little stub of right-of-way in a residential neighborhood that is no longer needed for street right-of-way.
A little short stubby thing. Roadway.
Yeah, so originally the subdivision proposed a street to stub out and possibly connect to other development, and that did not come to fruition, so it's just a dedicated right-of-way that's isn't needed for a road. So there's been a request to vacate that by the neighboring property owners. So that public hearing will come before the City Council on Tuesday, January 18th. And then no change on Duncan.
No change. Okay. Very good. All right. Mim, it's time.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Take care.